Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today, we will be discussing the story of the New York Mafia. We will delve into the beginning of the 20th century in America and explore how this organization emerged, who the main characters were that built this illegal empire, and how the New York Mafia made money in that harsh period. If you are ready, let's begin this intriguing story. Establishing the foundations of the New York Mafia. The story takes us back to the early 20th century in New York City, a time when waves of Italian immigrants arrived on American shores in search of a better life. Amidst the struggles of poverty, some individuals turned to illicit activities as a means of survival and empowerment. This fertile ground became the breeding ground for what would eventually evolve into the New York Mafia. At the center of this story are three key figures who played pivotal roles in shaping the empire: Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, and Frank Costello. Lucky Luciano, born Salvatore Lucania, emerges as a charismatic and ambitious figure. He possesses a natural talent for organization and strategy, recognizing the potential power that could be harnessed by uniting the various criminal factions within the Italian-American community. Luciano envisions a centralized structure that could wield influence and control over illicit activities. Meyer Lansky, a close associate and confidant of Luciano, brings a keen intellect and business acumen to the table. Lansky understands the need for diversification and the importance of expanding beyond traditional criminal enterprises. He sees an opportunity in the world of gambling and envisions creating a network of illegal gambling operations that would provide immense wealth and influence. Frank Costello, known for his diplomatic skills and political connections, becomes a key player in the establishment of the Mafia empire. He recognizes the value of forging alliances with influential politicians, law enforcement officials, and labor union leaders. Costello's ability to navigate the corridors of power ensures the Mafia's protection and facilitates their operations by warding off interference from the authorities. The story of New York's Mafia begins with influence of our main characters extends beyond their immediate communities, as they begin to form alliances and establish connections with other criminal organizations and power players both within and outside of New York City. As Luciano, Lansky, and Costello gain prominence, they work towards creating a hierarchical structure within the Mafia. The establishment of powerful families, each with its own territory and network of loyal associates, lays the foundation for the New York Mafia's power and influence. Through a combination of strategic alliances, ruthless tactics, and control over lucrative illegal activities such as gambling, loan sharking, and extortion, the empire of the New York Mafia gradually takes shape. Their influence extends into various industries, labor unions, and even political circles, enabling them to amass wealth, power, and a stranglehold on the city's criminal underworld. In this story of the borning of New York's Mafia, we can see a vivid picture of the early days of organized crime in New York City, showcasing the cunning, ambition, and calculated moves of Luciano, Lansky, Costello, and their associates, as they established the foundations of a criminal empire that would dominate the city for decades to come. Criminal enterprises. With the establishment of their power base, the New York Mafia began to exert control over a wide range of criminal enterprises, solidifying their influence and accumulating vast wealth. In this story, we can see how the Mafia extended its reach into various illegal activities, creating an intricate network of connections, corruption, and intimidation to expand its influence and increase its profits. Illegal gambling became one of the primary sources of revenue for the Mafia. From underground card games to large-scale sports betting operations, the Mafia ensured that they had a stake in these lucrative enterprises. They controlled gambling dens, bookmaking operations, and even manipulated outcomes to maximize their profits. The Mafia's involvement in gambling extended to legal casinos as well, where they would often collude with corrupt casino operators to siphon off funds. Prostitution also fell under the Mafia's control. They established brothels, controlled escort services, and profited from the exploitation of women. By exerting influence over vice districts and intimidating independent operators, the Mafia monopolized the sex trade, ensuring a steady stream of income. The Mafia's infiltration of labor unions played a crucial role in expanding their influence and solidifying their control over various industries. Through coercion, bribery, and violence, they manipulated union elections, extorted funds, and secured favorable labor contracts for their own benefit. This allowed them to exert control over the workforce, extract protection payments from businesses, and establish a stranglehold on the construction industry, which was particularly lucrative. As the demand for narcotics grew, the New York Mafia recognized the profitability of the drug trade and sought to exploit it. They established connections with international drug cartels, smuggling and distributing narcotics throughout the city. The Mafia's control over distribution networks, along with their ability to bribe law enforcement officials, allowed them to evade prosecution and profit immensely from the illegal drug trade. The construction industry also fell under the Mafia's influence. By infiltrating construction unions and extorting contractors, they ensured a monopoly over major construction projects. This included both legitimate construction ventures and illegal activities. The Mafia's control over the construction industry not only provided them with substantial profits but also allowed them to launder money and legitimize their illicit gains. The Mafia also cultivated relationships with corrupt politicians, law enforcement officials, and influential figures, ensuring their protection. Through a combination of bribery, intimidation, and strategic alliances, the Mafia created an environment where they could operate with relative impunity, further solidifying their power and influence. The accumulation of wealth from these criminal enterprises enabled the Mafia to expand their operations, extend their reach beyond New York City, and establish connections with other criminal organizations both domestically and internationally. Law enforcement and internal struggles. The New York Mafia's empire faced continuous threats from law enforcement agencies seeking to dismantle the criminal organization and internal power struggles that emerged within its ranks. In this story, we can see the efforts of dedicated law enforcement agents to bring down the Mafia. Law enforcement agencies, such as the Federal Bureau of Investigation and local police departments, recognized the Mafia as a significant threat to public safety and the rule of law. Agents and officers dedicated themselves to investigating and prosecuting organized crime, specifically targeting the New York Mafia. These law enforcement professionals employed various tactics, including surveillance, wiretapping, and undercover operations, to gather evidence and build cases against key Mafia figures. The story shows the cat-and-mouse game between law enforcement and the Mafia, with both sides employing sophisticated strategies to outwit each other. The Mafia utilized its vast network of informants, bribery, and intimidation to undermine investigations and obstruct justice. The efforts of dedicated law enforcement agents sometimes led to high-profile prosecutions and convictions of prominent Mafia figures. Among such cases, we can see the prosecution of Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, and Frank Costello, among others. These convictions, however, did not completely dismantle the Mafia but instead led to a shift in power and sparked internal struggles within the organization. Internal power struggles within the Mafia were driven by ambitious individuals vying for greater control and influence. A lot of tensions and rivalries emerged between different Mafia families and even within individual families. These power struggles sometimes resulted in violence, as rival factions fought for dominance or sought to eliminate perceived threats to their power. In the story of New York's Mafia, we can also see the role of charismatic and influential figures within the Mafia who held sway over the organization. These leaders, often referred to as bosses or godfathers, exercised authority, resolved disputes, and made critical decisions that affected the direction of the criminal empire. However, the actions and decisions of these leaders were not always universally accepted, leading to dissent and internal conflicts. Decline of the Mafia. The story reaches its climax as the New York Mafia experiences a significant decline, attributed to a combination of heightened law enforcement efforts, increased public scrutiny, and internal conflicts within the organization. This period marks a turning point in the history of the Mafia, as its power and influence are severely weakened. Law enforcement agencies, driven by a determination to dismantle organized crime, intensify their efforts to bring down the Mafia. This relentless pursuit results in a wave of arrests, prosecutions, and convictions, shaking the foundation of the Mafia's operations. Simultaneously, public perception of the Mafia undergoes a transformation. Media coverage and increased public awareness shed light on the dark underbelly of organized crime, exposing the violence, corruption, and negative societal impact associated with the Mafia. The once glamorized image of mobsters gives way to public condemnation, further fueling the efforts of law enforcement agencies and encouraging authorities to take decisive action. Internal conflicts within the Mafia compound its decline. Power struggles, rivalries, and betrayals fracture the unity within the criminal organization. These internal disputes weaken the mafia's structure, hinder its operations, and contribute to the erosion of its power. The decline of the New York Mafia serves as a cautionary tale, highlighting the destructive nature of organized crime. And also, this story shows us how the combined efforts of law enforcement, public awareness, and internal conflicts dismantle a once dominant criminal empire. That's all that I have for today. Thank you for watching this episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting video.